Good morning, good afternoon, maybe for where you are. Right, so Emil is chasing the man who he thinks has stolen his money, the man in the bowler hat, and he's feeling pretty alone. He's feeling pretty small and alone in this big bustling city of Berlin. 4 million people. He's had to, he didn't have the money for his fare, so a gentleman gave him money for his fare, but then this guy just went back to reading his newspaper. He didn't seem that interested in why Emil didn't have any money. He feels that he can't go to the police because he's worried he's going to get into trouble for chalking a moustache on a statue. So yeah, he's feeling alone, but he's still in pursuit of the man in the bowler hat. All right, chapter 7. A long wait at the flower stall. While Emil was being carried, he knew not where, along Kaiser Avenue on the number 177 tram, his grandmother and his cousin Pony were waiting for him at Friedrich Street Station. They stood by the flower stall as they had said they would and kept looking at the clock as more and more people went past them carrying bags and suitcases, parcels and bunches of flowers, but Emil was not among them. "I expect he's grown so much we've let him go by without recognising him," said Pony, pushing her gleaming new bicycle backwards and forwards as she spoke. She should not really have brought it to the station, but she had begged to so insistently that her grandmother said, "Oh, very well, bring it if you like, you silly girl." So now Pony was all smiles as she imagined Emil's envious eyes when he saw it. "I bet he doesn't know anyone with such a smashing bike," she said comfortably. But grandmother was growing anxious. "What on earth can have happened to the boy?" she said. "The train must be in by now. It's 6:20. A few minutes later, she sent Pony off to make inquiries, and of course Pony took her bicycle with her. "Please, can you tell me what has happened to the train from Neustadt?" she asked the ticket collector who was standing at the barrier. "It's very late, isn't it?" "Neustadt? Neustadt," he pondered, waving his ticket punch. "Oh yes, 6:17. It arrived some time ago." "Oh dear, are you sure? My grandmother and I have been waiting for ages at the flower stall for my cousin Emil." "I'm pleased to hear it, I'm sure," said the ticket collector. "I don't see what you should be pleased about in that," said Pony, twiddling her bicycle bell so that it tinkled. The ticket collector made no reply, but turned his back on her. "Well, you're a queer chap," said Pony, much offended. "Goodbye." A few of the people standing about smiled at her, and that annoyed the ticket collector. Pony wheeled her bicycle back to the flower stall. "The train came in a long time ago, Grandma," she reported. "Oh, then what can have happened to Emil?" And here is a picture of Pony, her surname is Hutchen, on her gleaming new bicycle. And it says underneath, "The girl on the bicycle is Pony Hutchen. That's a pet name. She lives in Berlin. Her mother and Emil's mother are sisters." There she is. "Then what can have happened to Emil?" wondered the old lady. "Surely his mother would have sent a telegram if he hadn't been able to come. Do you suppose he can have got out at the wrong station at all? After all, we sent him such careful directions." "I expect that's exactly what has happened," said Pony, sounding very cocksure. "Boys are so stupid. I bet that's what he's done." They waited another 5 minutes on the chance of his turning up, and then, as they had nothing much else to do, they waited for 5 more. "Oh, I can't see much point in staying here any longer," said Pony at last. "Or do you think there's another flower stall somewhere?" "Well, you might have a look," said her grandmother, "but come right back." Pony took her bicycle and had a good look round, but she couldn't see another flower stall. She asked a couple of porters too and came back quite positive that they had waited at the only one on the station. "There isn't any other," she announced. "I thought it would be funny if there was. What else was I going to tell you? Oh yes, there isn't another train from Neustadt till 8:33, so we'd better go home now, and I'll come down again on my bike to meet that." If he doesn't show up then, I'll write and tell him what I think of him." "Oh dear, I don't like it. I don't like it at all," said her grandmother, looking very worried. When she was excited or upset, she had a habit of saying things twice over. "Would you like a ride on the handlebars, Grandma?" asked Pony as they went slowly home. "Certainly not. Don't be so silly," said the old lady. "It's not a bit silly. You can't be any heavier than Arthur Zickler, and he often rides on them. If I hear of that happening just once more, I'll tell your father to take the bicycle away for good." "Oh, you are mean," Pony replied crossly. When they got home to 15 Schumann Street, they found Pony's parents waiting anxiously, very worried to hear that Emil had not turned up. Mr. Heimbold wanted to telegraph at once to Neustadt, but his wife would not hear of it. "Oh, for goodness sake," she cried, "his mother would be worried to death. Let's go back to the station again about 8 o'clock and see if he comes in by the later train." "Oh, I hope he will," wailed Grandma, "but I can't help feeling very worried. I don't like it. I don't like it at all." I don't like it either," agreed Pony, shaking her head. This book was written, as you know, in about 1930, so not everybody had a telephone in those days, and if you wanted to get a message to somebody, the fastest way to do it was by something called telegram. So you'd have to go to a post office, and somebody would take down a message, and it would be relayed using the telegram service, and then it would be taken on a small piece of card about so big that the message would be typed out and someone would have to deliver it. That was the fastest way of getting a message to somebody in those days. Chapter 8. The Boy with the Motor Horn. The man in the bowler hat got off the tram at the first stop after it turned out of Kaiser Avenue into Trautenau Street. Emil immediately picked up his suitcase and the bunch of flowers, murmured another thank you to the man who had paid his fare, and got off too. The thief walked in front of the tram, crossed the lines, and proceeded to the other side of the road. When the tram had moved on, Emil saw him standing on the opposite pavement, hesitating. Then he went up some steps to a terrace outside a cafe. Emil's next move had to be cautious, like a real detective following a suspect. He glanced about him quickly and noticed a newspaper stand at the street corner. It would give him just the right sort of cover, meaning he could hide behind it, and he hurried over to it. He put down his heavy case, took off his cap, and considered what to do next. The man had taken a seat close to the railing, looking down on the street. He was smoking a cigarette and appeared very pleased with himself. Emil was disgusted to find that a thief could have all the fun, while the person who'd been robbed was in such trouble. It made him furious that he, and not the thief, should have to hang about behind a newspaper stand. And it did not make him feel any better when he saw the man ordering himself a drink and lighting another cigarette. But it would be worse still if he got up to go, for there would be nothing for it but to snatch up the suitcase and chase after him again. As long as he sat there, Emil had only to stay where he was, and that he would do even if he had to stay until his beard sprouted. But long before that, of course, a policeman would stop and ask him what he was up to. "Loitering," he'd say. "Suspicious behaviour, and probably, 'You'd better come along with me and come quietly, or I'll have to put the bracelets on you.'" Bracelets meaning handcuffs. These miserable reflections were interrupted by a motor horn, which honked loudly just behind him. It made him jump, but when he looked round, there was only a boy standing there laughing. "All right, don't get the wind up," he said. "It sounded as though there was a motor right behind me," Emil said. "Silly chump. That was me. You can't belong round here, or you'd know that. I always carry a motor horn in my trouser pocket. Everyone knows me and my motor horn." So a motor horn is it's one of those old-fashioned horns with a what they call a bulb on the end, and you squeeze it. One of those. There he is. I'll just read what's underneath that illustration, actually. Everyone knows me and my motor horn. His name is Gustav. He is top of his class in gymnastics. What else? Well, he is good-natured and always carries an old motor horn with him. All the children in the district know him and look on him as their leader. When he runs around the streets honking his horn loudly, the boys leave whatever they're at and rush after him to see what's up. Usually, he's just picking a team to play football, but sometimes the horn comes in useful for other things, as it did in Emil's affairs. Okay. So, Gustav has just said, everyone knows me and my motor horn. I live in Neustadt, Emil explained. I've only just come from the station. Oh, up from the country, said the boy. I suppose that's why you're wearing those awful clothes. You take that back, said Emil furiously, or I'll knock you down. No, I keep your hair on, said the boy with the motor horn good-naturedly. Excuse me. It's too hot to fight. Though, if you really want to, I'm willing. No, I don't especially, Emil said. Let's put it off. I've no time now, and he glanced quickly up at the cafe to make sure that Mr. Grundy's was still there. I should have thought you had plenty of time, the boy retorted, hanging about here with your outside suitcase and that great cauliflower. You looked as though you were playing hide and seek with yourself. I can't say you seem to be in much of a hurry. As a matter of fact, said Emil, I'm keeping my eye on a thief. What? Exclaimed the boy with the motor horn. A thief? What's he stolen? Who from? Me, said Emil, feeling quite important again. He took £7 out of my pocket while I was asleep in the train. I was bringing it to my grandmother here in Berlin. After he'd stolen it, he left our carriage and got into another farther down the train. But I saw him get out at the Zoological Gardens station, and I've been following him ever since. He got on a tram, and now he's sitting over in that cafe. Look, that's him, looking as pleased as anything with himself. That man in the bowler hat. Oh, gosh, what a lark, said the other boy. Just like the pictures. When he says the pictures, it's a word meaning the cinema. Just like the pictures. What are you going to do next? So he's basically saying, oh, it's just like in a movie. I don't know, Emil admitted. Just keep on following him. There's a policeman over there. Why don't you go and tell him about it? He'd look after him for you. He'd look after him for you, all right? Yeah, I don't like to do that, Emil confessed. The police at Neustadt may be after me now for something I did at home. Oh, I see, said Gustav. And Grandma will still be waiting for me at Friedrich Street Station. The boy with the motor horn thought hard for a minute, then said, going after a real thief and catching him would be something. Cool. I think I'll help you, if you don't mind. I'd be awfully glad, Emil replied warmly. That's settled then. By the way, my name's Gustav. Mine's Emil. They shook hands, liking each other tremendously. Okay, I'm going to stop there. That was part 1.